Before this message begins, take a moment and understand that if this video found you at this exact time, it is not random and it is not a coincidence, because God has a way of sending a message exactly when a soul needs to hear it the most. And right now there is something heavy in the spiritual atmosphere surrounding your life, something that has been hidden for a long time, something that was done behind closed doors, something that people thought would never come to light. But God is saying today that the time of silence is ending and the time of exposure is beginning, because nothing that is hidden can stay hidden forever. When heaven decides it is time for the truth to be revealed, and there are people who believe they were clever enough to bury their actions deep enough that no one would ever discover what they did. They thought the lies were strong enough, they thought the secrets were protected enough, they thought the masks they were wearing would never fall. But what they forgot is that God sees everything, even the things done in the dark, even the whispers spoken when they thought no one was listening, even the silent betrayals that happened when your back was turned. God was watching every moment, and heaven recorded every detail. And now the moment has come when the truth will rise to the surface in a way no one can stop. And God wants you to know that what is about to be exposed is not happening by accident, it is happening by divine timing, because for a long time you have carried confusion in your heart. You felt something was wrong, but you could not prove it. You sensed that certain people around you were not genuine, but you had no evidence. You felt that there were conversations happening about you behind your back, but every time you tried to understand what was happening, the truth seemed to slip further away. And there were moments when you even questioned your own intuition, wondering if maybe you were overthinking, maybe you were imagining things, maybe you were just being too sensitive. But deep inside your spirit, something kept telling you that there was more to the story. And now God is confirming that your spirit was not wrong. The feeling you had was not paranoia, it was discernment, because the truth is that there were things happening that were deliberately hidden from you, and there were people who made conscious choices to keep those secrets buried, because they knew that if the truth ever surfaced, their image would collapse and their intentions would be revealed, and their carefully built reputation would begin to crack. But they underestimated one thing: they underestimated the power of divine justice, because when God decides it is time for exposure, no lie can survive the light of truth. And what is about to happen will feel sudden to many people, but in reality heaven has been preparing this moment for a long time. Every conversation, every decision, every hidden act has been recorded, and now the weight of those secrets has reached a point where they can no longer remain buried. And the reason God is allowing this exposure now is not just to reveal what was hidden, but also to bring clarity and healing into your life, because there were seasons when you felt unfairly judged, there were moments when you were blamed for things that were not your fault, there were times when people questioned your character or misunderstood your intentions because someone else was manipulating the narrative behind the scenes, and it hurt you deeply because you knew the truth in your heart, but you could not make others see it, and you carried that silent frustration, wondering if the truth would ever come out, wondering if the damage done to your reputation would ever be repaired. But God is saying now that the same truth that was buried is about to rise, and when it does, the people who doubted you will begin to see things differently, and the people who believed the false stories will start realizing that they were misled, and the ones who tried to hide their actions will suddenly find themselves unable to control the situation anymore, because exposure has a way of arriving at the exact moment when those responsible feel most comfortable believing they got away with everything. And that is when God shifts the entire situation in a way no human being could have predicted, and suddenly the truth starts revealing itself piece by piece, sometimes through a conversation, sometimes through a message, sometimes through someone speaking up who can no longer stay Silent, and when it begins it cannot be stopped, because truth carries a power that lies can never permanently defeat. And as this unfolds, you may feel a mixture of emotions. You may feel relief because your spirit knew something was wrong all along. You may feel anger because you realize how deeply you were deceived. You may feel sadness because some of the people involved might be individuals you once trusted or cared about. But God wants you to remember something very important in this moment. Exposure is not meant to destroy you. Exposure is meant to free you, because as long as the truth was hidden, you were stuck in a situation built on deception. But once the truth is revealed, the chains of confusion break and you are finally able to move forward with clarity and wisdom. And the same God who allowed the hidden things to be revealed will also guide you through what comes next, because the purpose of divine exposure is not revenge, it is restoration. It is about correcting what was twisted, bringing justice where there was manipulation, and opening the path for a new season in your life where you are no longer surrounded by hidden agendas and silent betrayals. And the people who once thought they could control the narrative will have to face the reality that the truth has its own voice, and once it begins to speak, no amount of denial can silence it. As the truth begins to surface, you will start noticing something unusual happening around you, because the same people who once acted confidently while hiding their actions will slowly begin to shift their behavior, and the calm mask they wore for so long will start cracking in ways that reveal their inner fear, because deep inside they know something is changing in the spiritual atmosphere, and they can sense that the protection they believed they had around their secrets is beginning to disappear. And this is not because someone suddenly became smarter or more observant, but because when God decides to expose what was hidden, He begins moving pieces in ways no human mind can predict, and situations that once looked perfectly controlled begin to unravel in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes it happens through a simple mistake. Sometimes someone accidentally reveals information they were never supposed to share. Sometimes a person who was silent for years suddenly finds the courage to speak, and sometimes evidence that seemed lost suddenly appears again at the exact moment it is needed. And when these things begin happening, the people who were involved in hiding the truth start feeling pressure building around them, because the darkness that once protected their actions cannot survive when light starts shining into the places they tried to keep hidden. And God is saying that the same light is now moving into every corner of the situation that once confused you, and as it moves, the layers of deception will slowly begin to fall away, and what once seemed like a mystery will start making sense piece by piece. And you will look back at moments in your past and suddenly understand why certain things happened the way they did, why certain people acted strangely, why some relationships shifted without explanation, and why you felt an unexplained heaviness whenever you were around certain individuals, because your spirit was picking up signals that your mind could not yet fully understand. And now, as the truth reveals itself, those signals will finally make sense, and the clarity that comes with this moment may feel overwhelming at first, because when someone discovers that things were intentionally hidden from them, the mind naturally begins replaying memories, searching for answers, asking how long the deception lasted, and wondering who else might have known. But God wants you to guard your heart carefully during this time, because exposure is meant to reveal truth, not to trap you in bitterness. And the enemy would love nothing more than for the moment of revelation to become a moment where anger consumes your peace. But the reason God allowed the truth to come forward is so that you can finally walk in freedom without the weight of confusion that once followed you. And the freedom that comes after truth is revealed is something powerful, because once you see things clearly, you are no longer vulnerable to the same manipulation that once surrounded you and the same individuals who once believed they had influence over your perception will discover that their power has disappeared because deception only works when the truth is hidden, and once the truth stands in the open its influence begins to collapse. And this is why some of those people may attempt to control the narrative one last time. They may try to explain things away, they may attempt to shift blame, they may try to convince others that what is being revealed is not the full story. But when God exposes something, He does not do it halfway. The truth comes with a weight that cannot be permanently covered again, and the people who once relied on silence will suddenly find that silence is no longer protecting them, because what was hidden has already started speaking for itself. And as this continues unfolding, you will also notice something else happening within your own spirit, a sense of confirmation that you were not imagining things, a quiet validation that the instincts God placed inside you were guiding you in the right direction even when you doubted yourself. And this realization will strengthen your ability to trust your discernment in the future, because you will remember that there was a time when you sensed something beneath the surface even when no one else seemed to notice, and when the truth finally came forward it confirmed everything your spirit had been trying to warn you about. And God is also saying that this exposure is not only about the past, it is also about protecting your future, because if these hidden things had remained buried, the same patterns of deception could have continued affecting your life for years to come. But by bringing the truth into the open now, heaven is removing obstacles that would have followed you into your next season. And sometimes divine protection does not look like immediate comfort, sometimes it looks like uncomfortable truths being revealed so that the path ahead becomes clear and free from hidden traps. And while this moment may bring emotional waves, it is also the beginning of a new level of clarity, where you will no longer feel the need to question your own perception or second-guess the signals your spirit sends you. And this clarity will also reveal who truly belongs in your life and who was only present while the truth remained hidden, because genuine people will respond to truth with humility, understanding, and honesty, while those who were part of the deception will struggle to stand in the light of what has been revealed. And as this separation becomes visible, you may realize that some relationships were never as real as they appeared. And while that realization can be painful, it is also necessary, because a future built on truth cannot include the same hidden foundations that once caused confusion. And God is preparing you for a season where the people around you will be those who value honesty, loyalty, and transparency, because once someone experiences the power of truth being revealed, they become far less willing to tolerate environments built on secrecy and manipulation. And that shift in your spirit is part of the transformation that this moment of exposure is creating inside you, because the same experience that once caused confusion will now become wisdom, guiding your steps forward and protecting you from repeating the same patterns again. And while some individuals will be forced to face the consequences of what they tried to hide, your focus should remain on the freedom that truth is bringing into your life. Because the chapter of uncertainty is closing and a new chapter of clarity is opening, and in this new chapter you will no longer walk through situations wondering what is real and what is not, because the God who revealed what was hidden will also guide you into relationships and opportunities where truth does not have to fight to be seen. It simply exists in the open, where nothing needs to be hidden and nothing needs to be secretly controlled. And that is the kind of life heaven is preparing for you. As the final pieces of this exposure continue unfolding in the days ahead, And as this final phase of revelation continues to unfold, you will begin to understand something even deeper about the way God works in moments like these, because when heaven exposes what was hidden, it is never only about the people who created the deception, it is also about the person who was standing in the middle of it without knowing the full truth, and that person is you, because there were seasons in your life when you felt like something around you was quietly working against you, but you could not explain it. There were moments when doors closed without reason, when certain relationships shifted without warning, when people suddenly distanced themselves or treated you differently, and you carried the weight of those experiences without fully understanding why they were happening. And at times you may have blamed yourself, wondering if you did something wrong, wondering if you misread a situation, wondering if perhaps you trusted the wrong people or made the wrong decisions. But God is saying now that many of those moments were influenced by things you were never meant to see at that time, because the truth had not yet reached the moment when it was ready to be revealed, and the people who were hiding their actions believed that time would protect them. They believed that if enough days passed, if enough months went by, if enough new events filled everyone's attention, then the past would remain buried forever. But what they failed to realize is that time does not erase truth, it only waits for the moment when truth can no longer remain hidden, and that moment has now arrived. And as the final pieces come into the open, you will notice something powerful happening not only around you but within you, because the same confusion that once filled your mind will begin to dissolve, and in its place a new sense of understanding will grow, and you will start seeing how certain events that once felt random were actually part of a larger pattern that was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. And the more clarity you receive, the more you will realize that God was protecting you in ways you could not see, even during the moments when it felt like you were standing alone, because sometimes divine protection does not remove every challenge immediately. Sometimes it allows certain things to unfold until the right moment arrives for truth to stand fully in the light, and that moment has finally come. And the reason this exposure is so important is because it restores the balance that deception tried to distort, because lies have a way of temporarily shifting how people see a situation. They can create false impressions, they can manipulate opinions, they can cause innocent people to be misunderstood while those responsible appear blameless. But that imbalance cannot last forever when God decides to intervene, because the same truth that was hidden begins correcting the narrative piece by piece, and the people who once believed a certain version of events will start realizing that the story they accepted was incomplete, and slowly the truth will begin rebuilding what deception tried to tear down. And you may witness individuals coming back with a different perspective. People who once doubted you may now see things more clearly. People who once believed false information may start questioning what they were told. And while these shifts may feel surprising, they are simply the natural result of truth rising to the surface, because truth carries a quiet authority that cannot be permanently denied. And as these changes unfold, it is important for you to remember that this moment is not only about the past, it is also about the future God is preparing for you, because once hidden things are exposed, the environment around you begins transforming, and the same spaces that once contained secrecy and manipulation start losing their influence over your life. And this creates room for something new, something healthier, something aligned with the purpose God has placed within you. And this new season will feel different from the one you are leaving behind, because clarity changes the way you walk through life. When you have seen how deception operates, you become far more aware of the signals that reveal whether someone's intentions are genuine or not, and that awareness will guide you toward relationships that are built on honesty, respect, and loyalty, rather than hidden motives and silent agendas, and the people who truly belong in Your life will not fear truth, they will welcome it, because real connections do not need secrets to survive, they grow stronger in the light of openness and integrity, and this is the kind of atmosphere God wants surrounding your future, because you were never meant to live in an environment where you constantly question what is happening behind your back or wonder whether the people around you are speaking the same words in private that they speak in front of you, and now that the hidden layers are being removed, you are stepping into a period where authenticity will matter more than appearances, and where the people who remain close to you will be those who value truth just as much as you do. And while some individuals may disappear from your path as the exposure continues, it does not mean you are losing something valuable. It simply means that the roles they once played in your story have reached their ending, because not everyone who walks beside you in one season is meant to travel with you into the next, and sometimes the only way that transition can happen is through truth being revealed, and once that truth stands in the open, the direction of your life naturally begins shifting toward a healthier and more aligned future. And as you move forward from this moment, God wants you to carry one powerful understanding in your heart: nothing that was done in darkness can remain hidden forever. When heaven decides the time for exposure has arrived, and the same God who saw every hidden conversation, every secret plan, every silent betrayal, is also the God who is now bringing those things into the light, not to destroy your peace but to restore your freedom, because a life built on truth will always be stronger than a life surrounded by hidden deception. And the chapter that is closing behind you may contain lessons that were painful to learn, but those lessons will now become the wisdom that protects your future and guides your steps toward the path that was always meant for you. And if this message reached you today, it may be because your season of confusion is finally ending and the season of clarity is beginning, and the truth that is being revealed is only the first sign that God is actively working in your life to remove what was hidden and replace it with something far more powerful, a future where you no longer need to search for answers in the shadows, because everything that truly belongs in your life will stand openly in the light, where nothing needs to be hidden and nothing needs to be secretly controlled. And as that future unfolds, you will look back at this moment of exposure not as a time of chaos, but as the turning point where God finally revealed the truth that set you free and positioned you for the life that was waiting on the other side of honesty, clarity, and divine justice. And as this message comes to its final moment, understand this one powerful truth that God wants you to carry with you: nothing that is done in darkness can stay hidden forever. People may try to bury the truth, they may try to protect their image, they may try to silence the evidence, but when God decides the time for exposure has come, no human power can stop what heaven is revealing. What was whispered in secret eventually finds its way into the light, and what was carefully hidden eventually stands where everyone can see it. The season you are entering is not a season of confusion anymore. It is a season of clarity. The questions that once lived quietly in your heart are beginning to receive answers, and the things that once made you doubt yourself are now being replaced with understanding. God is not allowing this exposure to happen to hurt you, but to free you from every lie, every hidden manipulation, and every silent betrayal that once surrounded your life. In the days ahead, you may continue to see pieces of truth unfolding in ways that surprise you. Conversations may happen that you never expected. Certain people may reveal their true intentions. Situations that once seemed confusing may suddenly make perfect sense. When those moments happen, remember that this is not chaos, this is divine alignment. God is simply removing what was false so that what is real can finally take its place in your life. Do not let anger control your heart during this time. Let wisdom guide you. Let peace protect you. Because the greatest victory is not proving others wrong, the greatest victory is walking forward in freedom while God handles the rest. The same God who exposed what was hidden is also preparing a future where you will no longer be surrounded by secrecy, but by truth, loyalty, and genuine connections. And one day you will look back at this very moment and realize that the exposure you once feared was actually the breakthrough you needed. It was the moment God cleared the fog, revealed the truth, and opened the door to a new chapter of your life. If this message touched your spirit, take a moment to pause and reflect, because sometimes God sends a message not just to inform you, but to prepare you for what is about to happen next. And if you feel this message was meant for you, stay aware, stay prayerful, and stay strong, because the truth that God is revealing now is only the beginning of the freedom He is bringing into your life.